The most celebrated or famous trickster figure in African mythology is the West African deity known as Eshu. Eshu is renowned for his cunning, and he's also known by the names Legba and Alegba. He is a restless being with, above all, a hunger for creating chaos. Now, Eshu, Legba, Alegba, likes causing universal disorder, and he is responsible for all the quarrels between human beings, as well as the quarrels between humanity and the gods. Eshu is a homeless wanderer who inhabits the marketplaces, the crossroads, and the thresholds of houses. Eshu, also known as Legba or Elegba, is always in attendance during times of change and transition. And the spirit is so good at what he does that he even enticed the sun and the moon to change houses, reversing the order of things. In his best-known sacred story, Eshu manages to break up a lifelong friendship between two men. The two men were always together. They even dressed alike and farmed adjoining plots of land. Eshu one day decides to walk down the path which divides their farms. Eshu is wearing a hat. The hat is black on one side and white on the other. It's black on one side and white on the other side. Eshu then puts his pipe on the back of his head and hooks his club over one shoulder so that it hangs down his back. After Eshu passes by, the two friends argue and argue about the direction this mysterious stranger, Eshu, of course, had taken. And they also argue about the color of his hat. The quarrel becomes so heated that the king himself takes notice of it and decides to summon the two men into his presence. Each of the two men accuses the other of lying. Eshu then appears and tells the king that neither one is a liar, but that both men are indeed fools. And Eshu then confesses to the king about his trickery. The king is not amused. He's not very happy about Eshu's shenanigans and sends his men after Eshu. Of course, Eshu easily outruns them all. Now, in his flight from the king's men, Eshu sets fire to the many houses in the village. The occupants of the burning homes run out of their houses, carrying their possessions with them. Eshu then offers to take care of these possessions, but instead gives each bundle to a stranger as they pass by, so that the belongings of the victims of the fire are then scattered, sent off in virtually every direction. Now, in another famous sacred story, Eshu tells the high god that thieves are planning to raid his favorite yam garden. Eshu then creeps down during the night into the high god's house and steals the sandals of the supreme being. Then the trickster god goes into the garden wearing the sandals and steals all the yams. It had rained the day before, so the footprints of the sandals are plain to see. In the morning, Eshu reports the theft to the high god, saying that it's going to be easy to identify the thief from the footprints. All the people are then called, but nobody's feet fits such large footprints. Eshu then suggests that perhaps the high god himself took the yams while sleepwalking. The divinity, the supreme god, the high god, is virtually in a state of shock. And, well, he denies it. I didn't steal my own yams. But only the high god's feet match the footprints exactly. The high god, the supreme being, then accuses Eshu of tricking him. And by way of retribution, he announces his immediate withdrawal or departure from this world, and tells Eshu to come to the sky every night. Eshu has got to come to heaven every night and report what has happened below on earth during the day. So Eshu now becomes the messenger between God and humanity. Eshu is sometimes teamed up with the Yoruba god of healing and wisdom, the Yoruba tribes in West Africa, Nigeria. This healing god of wisdom is known as Ifa, who acts as a type of companion or a counterbalance to Eshu. Ifa is the god of order and control. And before people embark on an important enterprise, it is customary to make an offering to Ifa. But in order to ensure that things go smoothly, the first offering is always given to Eshu. Ifa is also the god of prophecy, with 16 palm nuts acting as his instruments or implements of divination. The god had in fact come down to earth from heaven in order to tell humanity these secrets of medicine and prophecy. And whenever he leaves the earth and returns to the sky, famine and plague descend to the people. Now, in this sacred story, the trickster Eshu and Ifa, the god of order and control, work together in the world. Eshu and Ifa were traveling together through the world, while Eshu boasted that one day he would bring ruin to Ifa. Ifa just laughs and says to Eshu, "If you transform yourself, I shall do the same. And if I should die, so shall you also die, for it is ordained in heaven." So one night, Eshu disappears. He steals a chicken from a neighboring home and cuts off its head. Then the trickster god hides the pieces of the chicken in his garment, and he returns to Ifa. Eshu then shouts out, crying to Ifa, "Wake up! Wake up! Death is coming." Angry villagers who are, pissed off at the loss of the chicken are now approaching and could be heard shouting in the distance. Eshu and Ifa quickly flee the angry mob. And as they run away, Eshu sprinkles drops of blood from the dead chicken onto the ground in order to leave a trail to mark their escape route, so that the angry mob of villagers can find them. Ifa looks back and sees the villagers, carrying hatchets and clubs. Eshu then climbs a tall white cotton tree as Ifa transforms himself into a bird and flies up, perching himself alongside the trickster Eshu. "Did I not say that I would bring death to you?" says Eshu to Ifa. Ifa replies that whatever happens to me will also happen to you. The villagers then chop down the mighty white cotton tree and run to the spot where they think that the bodies of Eshu and Ifa have fallen. But in place of the trickster god Eshu and the god of order Ifa, the angry mob finds only a large stone and a pool of clear and cool water. When the crowd of villagers stare at the stone, their heads become filled with agony and heat. Only when they look at the pool of clear and cool water does this terrible agony and heat disappear. The chief of the village recognizes instantly that a miracle had taken place and prostrates himself, saying, "We of the world bow down and worship you." So since that day, whenever a sacrifice is offered to Ifa, the god of healing, wisdom, and prophecy, the first taste is always given to the trickster god Eshu in order to help ensure success. Well, all